Pong was the first home computer game, and for many of us, it was the first computer that came into our living rooms. This game was fascinating when it came out, but as far as putting images into motion, it was only a hint of what was just around the corner. Creating moving, realistic images with a computer is a relatively new form of animation, and recent advances in technology have made artists out of computer programmers and computer programmers out of artists. Computer animation has already been put to use in movies and on television. Walt Disney's Tron was the first film to feature this new art form. Light cycles raced across the game board, and it was all created by a computer. On television, examples can be seen on commercials.
A good idea by itself may go nowhere. It needs other good ideas. Technology from a company called TRW makes the most of ideas by helping them work together. And working together is the best idea in the world.
And network shows.
You'll love it on ABC. You'll love it.
Of course, it takes special equipment and training to learn the art of computer animation. The examples you'll be seeing in this program were created on the campus of Ohio State University by the Computer Graphics Research Group, which is made up of graduate students and faculty members from various departments, and by Cranston Surrey Productions, the professional animation company that share this building, the Cranston Center with OSU. No two of these short animated videos are alike. They range from abstract images It would be difficult to find an area of our lives that computers don't affect. We use computers to do our banking,
Please check your fuel.
to detect car trouble, or to track down a library book. But you don't have to go out to find a computer. In recent times, a computer terminal has become a common sight in the home, but that hasn't always been the case. The first computer was built in the 1940s, and not only was it limited in its abilities, it also took up a lot of space. A typical early computer could occupy about 3,000 cubic feet, use 140,000 watts, and weigh 30 tons. In the late 1940s, it was discovered that tiny pieces of germanium, when specially prepared, could perform the same job. These tiny transistors were the beginning of miniature electronics. Then, in 1958, scientists discovered how to put more than one transistor on a single piece of germanium, creating an integrated circuit. By building integrated circuits onto a thin wafer of silicon, it's possible to make a microprocessor, which in turn makes possible the small computer. If you wanted to learn how to create this kind of computer animation, you wouldn't have to travel far. Perhaps the best school in the country can be found at Ohio State University, but there's a long line waiting to get in. Out of 500 applications the school received, less than 10 students were accepted. This is the training ground for OSU's graduate students. Here their ideas are transformed into software, readouts, and computer graphics. Before animation like this can be created, you need the right tools. The computer uses a mini computer with 4 million bytes of memory, as compared to the home computer, which usually has about 90,000 bytes. The first step for programmers is to create a model of the object they plan to animate. To do this, the animator programs in points and lines. These will be used to create the three-dimensional object by sweeping the image around. The object can then be inspected from any angle, and the programmer can make alterations and additions. Virtually anything about the image can be controlled. Curves can be smoothed out, sections made thicker, whatever the animator chooses. To create more complicated images, many horizontal contours are combined in a process called lofting. That's how this skull was created. The computer can create a rough wireframe image which allows the animator to inspect movements without going through the costly and time-consuming process of complete animation. Like line animation, such as used on Saturday morning cartoons, computer animation is assembled one image at a time. The computer composes a single frame as it's programmed to, and that frame is transferred to film or video. Then the next frame is put together with the subject moved a bit, and that is filmed. It takes 24 frames of film to make a second's worth of animation. To To draw each frame with the needed detail, it can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 15 hours for the computer to compose each frame, so it can take days to produce a short film. To save time, color tests are created by separating the image into several lower resolution frames, which can be animated in real time. When the animator is satisfied with the final product, the completed computer animation can be generated. The time needed to create an animated video varies, depending on how complicated the subject is. For example, it took Chris Wedge about 6 months to produce a 2-minute video. It's a lot of work, but the end product is one that would be almost impossible to duplicate by any other means. Animation is defined as giving an object the appearance of life, and duplicating life-like motion is perhaps the greatest challenge facing the computer animator. Although it can produce some remarkable images, animating living creatures realistically is one area that is yet to be mastered. Chris Wedge is no stranger to computer animation, having worked on Walt Disney's film Tron. He helped animate several parts of the film, most notably the light cycle sequence. Although he was already a professional animator, Chris Wedge came to Ohio State to learn character animation.
Tell us about the project you're working on now.
Well, it's a short film about a mom and a dad and a baby, and where the baby takes its first steps, and it's primarily about this silly excitement over that little event. This is Dad sitting here holding up his baby. This is his head. It's kind of shaped like a carrot, and his eyes are here, and this is some strange hair that he's got, and this is the upper part of his body, his shoulders. And their parts aren't attached really. They all kind of float, which will give you kind of a bouncy, floaty feeling in the motion. These are Dad's hands attached to the baby up here. You can see them from the side. On this system, we're able to almost go ahead and grab a hold of these things. We can turn the characters around.
And if abstract character animation is a difficult and time-consuming task, you can imagine how much more difficult it would be to produce true-life animation. Allow me to introduce Jumping George. He's a good example of a computer imitating human motion. His figure was built together bone by bone, and the computer controls the motion of each bone. The movements are managed by skill and motor programs. For example, for George to jump, the skill program controls the process of squatting, pushing off, swinging his legs forward, and landing. The motor program moves the parts of his body in a lifelike way. It even allows George to negotiate different landscapes and hills. Although the field of computer animation has made some great strides in the past few years, there are still many challenges to be faced. How to speed up the process, how to convincingly imitate life and nature, and 1,000 others. But the problems are being solved, and as they are, the craft improves. Using the computer as a paintbrush, the only limits on the animator are the bounds of his or her own imagination.